The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Adam McBride from Emblem Vault.
What's up, guys?
Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Happy Friday, everybody. Good to see you.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. S&P gives up gain. 500 points down. Dow falls as White House says tariffs are starting Saturday. A 25% tariff is said to be placed on America's #1 and #2 trading partners, Canada and Mexico, respectively. Tariffs, of course, raise the price on goods by forcing businesses to pay more when they import goods from other countries. The businesses then raise the prices on consumers. Usually the countries raise the tariffs back, meaning that Mexico and Canada would slap a 25% or more tariff on American goods, causing what they used to call in the 1900s a trade war. Adam McBride, we have one more thing on that. So a trade war, and the price of Bitcoin is up. The price of Bitcoin is $101,770. That's 3.3% down recently, so we are not up. With a high of 106, a low of 101, and $1 for 983 Satoshis, just on the other side of that $1,000 Satoshi barrier, which once seemed so impossible. Adam McBride, what do you think about the Dow being down 500 points? The market freaked out that tariffs could start on the best trading partners America has on Saturday, which is usually a weekend.
Who gives a crap? Who cares, man? Who cares? It's Trump doing Trump things. We'll see how it shakes out. I'm bullish, like Trump just doing away with income tax. Like, can we make that happen? That's the most interesting thing to me, is that Trump's like floated this out there that, let's just raise tariffs. Let's go back to, 1912 before the income tax, and let's raise taxes for our government that way rather than on the backs of the people. So I'm excited for it, man. I don't even know why he's doing this. I understand the Colombia thing the other day, making sure that flights out of aliens or illegal immigrants who came into the U.S. can be returned to their home country. Understood that one. That got resolved quickly. We'll see if this gets resolved quickly. I don't know. We'll see. Trump plays games which, to an outsider look crazy, but we know that often they're successful. So I'm willing to give him a pass for a few days.
I think there's a 0.0% chance of getting rid of the income tax. But
I don't disagree.
Talk about.
But we can keep hope alive, bro. We can keep hope alive.
The same thing. They said he was going to get rid of taxes on tips. That hasn't happened yet. There's a lot of great taxes I'm sure people in the audience would like to get rid of. Victoria Jones, what do you think, just for a second, about the Dow, the stock market, and the impending tariffs and trade war?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said a few times on this show the entire financial system is on pretty shaky ground. It's almost a case of, which is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And every time, now it's getting to the stage that every time there's some kind of uncertain news, the Dow kind of gets these sorts of drops. So it's dropping, but then it's starting to kind of climb and recover, and then something will happen to make it drop again. And it's, we're at a time where almost anything could happen, and now it's like a 500-pound drop isn't really anything because it happens so often. So it's like, wake me up when it's a 10,000 point drop. 500 points is nothing.
It's not what it used to be, that's for sure, right? Yeah.
In 1987 that was big news. These days, forget it. I mean, that's peanuts.
Especially with the AI sell-off recently, as NVIDIA lost 17 points, the whole market went down, an entire sector collapsed because of Chinese software, which may or may not live up to the hype. It seems good so far, but NVIDIA still needs to sell machines. People still need to run this software, even if it runs faster and better. Let's move on to the exit question. Crypto industry gets quick return on Trump investment after pouring millions into the campaign. As expected, the mainstream media has posted about not only the Ulbricht pardon, but the quick return on the working group and allegedly the ban on CBDCs, as well as perhaps the price of Bitcoin. Victoria Jones, is the Trump presidency everything crypto asked for? Did they get their money's worth, at least so far?
Well, they seem to do. They seem to have done, don't they? I mean, he's been very friendly to the crypto industry, and I think it's a realization of that classic phrase that money talks. And now that all the crypto people have all the money, it looks like it's swayed the heads of the president, and that's the way it's always worked. The way in which our money works at the moment relies on the fact that it's government, it's money by decree. That's what fiat money means, and so who's making the decree? It's the government. So they're totally intertwined with each other. And so, yeah, it's always been the people who had the biggest wallets who were able to influence the president. And unfortunately, in 2017, there weren't as many people who were funding the president. It was just I think it was mainly this wave of libertarianism that kind of got Trump into power. But the moment he was in power, he took credit for squashing the Bitcoin pump that happened in 2017. So you'll never persuade me to believe that Trump loves Bitcoin for the sake of Bitcoin. It's quite apparent that he's just nodding to whoever's willing to pay the most, and that's what every president has done. So who can complain?
Totally agree. I think that the thing with the CBDCs, just on that point specifically, yeah, we can kind of pull that out as, for a lot of libertarians, the idea of CBDCs is revolting, but I think it's pretty clear to anybody who's got their eyes open that what's actually happening is that Wall Street's just going to do the stable coins, right? Wall Street's, the stable coins are where the money's going to be made. And so it's just kind of shifted to, we were worried about CBDCs and the government controlling a digital currency, to now it's just going to be basically be Wall Street. They're still going to have all the control mechanisms. They're going to be able to spy on you. There's going to be all this KYC stuff. It's still going to happen. It's just going to happen in stable coins. And so, we've avoided kind of one devil, and we've kind of moved on to the other devil, which, crypto will have to battle with going forward. But overall, I think that, Bitcoiners specifically, they got what they wanted. Maybe a little bit delayed with Ross. It wasn't exactly within 24 hours, but they still got him, right? And so, yeah, very, very bullish for Bitcoiners, which is, I mean, you just see though, bullish news doesn't necessarily reflect in price. And that's just markets. Markets are crazy like this, and that's the way it goes.
Well, you know what they say, when you buy a politician, you get what you paid for. And just like I was saying last week, it's not the end of the drug war. I don't think it's the end of the Bitcoin war or the cryptocurrency war. It seems to me like some very smart people have bought temporary protection from a very big gangster. Yeah. And if that pays off for everyone in the end, we're going to see. If it pays off for everyone in the short term, that might not be so well in the long term, but we're just going to have to wait and see how that turns out. But it's interesting stuff, and we'll try to keep talking about it, and less politics. Moving on to issue 2, more politics. Jesse Powell, a friend of the show and founder of the exchange Kraken, is up in arms on Twitter, saying that Roger Ver should be pardoned. Roger Ver gave up his citizenship. Allegedly, the IRS says that he said he had 0 Bitcoins when exiting the country, allegedly giving them as a gift to his partner at the time, or holding them in companies that were then in the United States. Allegedly, the IRS has provided no offer to Mr. Ver, no monetary amount that he could pay to avoid prison. Jesse Powell sees this as a major miscarriage of justice. Jameson Lopp is on the other side, saying that Roger Ver has a political persecution ploy, and you don't actually understand the charges against him. Jameson claims that Roger has likely received offers, but is not willing to take them or pay the government what they want. According to the government, Roger may have had access to upwards or equal to 58,000 Bitcoin. And as it says here, Elon Musk, Roger Ver gave up his U.S. citizenship. No pardon for Ver. Membership has its privileges. As Jameson says, Ver, pardon me. Musk, you renounce citizenship. Ver, I identify as an American. Trump, we're not doing that anymore. Are we not doing the pardons? Or are we not doing what? But let's talk about it here. Adam McBride, what do you think about Roger Ver and the pardon situation?
I think that governments, U.S. government in this particular case, weaponize their laws against certain people. And tax law in the U.S. specifically over the history of the U.S. has been this one where they can always get you, always. It doesn't matter what you've done with your taxes, unless you literally don't make any money, you are always subject to persecution because the tax law is so complicated. And if you have any real amount of wealth at all, the tax law is so ridiculously complicated that you inherently have done something wrong by nature. Every single person has. And so it's just a matter of, do we want to get you or not? And did Roger this is all just personal belief. Do I believe Roger probably fudged numbers on his way out? Probably. Should they come after him 10 years after the fact, after he's given up his citizenship and exited the country? It's kind of ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Should there, I mean, we could get into the talk of should there even be an exit tax? Is that even constitutional? Is any of this constitutional to steal from your people? But do I think they did this for political reasons? Absolutely. I think it is at that point. And I think that's why people are calling for a pardon. Not that he necessarily didn't do something wrong. He very well might have. But the question is, okay, if he did skim on his taxes a little bit, how much was it? How much should he pay? And rather than do that, which I think could be considered rational, it's just, we're holding out 106 years in prison for you or whatever. And they just use it as a bludgeon and a stick to be able to scare everybody else to being terrified about the U.S. government and the tax situation. And so it goes to just the general, lawfare that we saw against Trump and we see against anybody who steps out of line. Taxes is always the way they come after you. And so I see that in this case as well. And it's just sad to see. And it's sad to see that, a guy who did so much for crypto and Bitcoin is the one taking that heat.
I tend to side a little bit more with Jameson here. I do believe that the IRS has made them an offer. However, it might be an offer far too large for them to pay. Who knows how many of those Bitcoins he still has, so on and so forth, how many were lost in boating accidents and such.
People were saying, he exchanged it all for whatever, Bitcoin Cash. And I mean, he might not, we often think, oh, these guys in crypto are rich and this guy's got, $100 million. He might not, you know what I mean? And so he might not be in this great situation. We all feel he could just throw down $40 million, right?
I agree. On this show, he did say that he traded all of his Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash, but it was a very kind of propagandist period. There's also the recent story where I forget the exact exchange, but Roger owed them a large amount of money and he did not pay them. So normally when you're a billionaire or whatever he is, you just pay people. I don't think he did that. It is tough here a little bit. I want to side, unfortunately, with Elon Musk a little bit, where membership does have its privileges, the slogan of American Express credit card. He didn't want to be a citizen. How can you pardon someone who's not a citizen? What are we pardoning him for? This whole exit tax thing, I agree with Adam. It's very hard to understand. It's certainly not, letter of the law in the Constitution or something. They tell you like, hey, if you want to move to another country in the United States, surprise, you have to pay them, I don't know what it is, the average amount of your taxes for the last 5 years in the future for 10 years, something like that.
No, dude, it's a tax on all your assets, And if you can't pardon somebody who's not a U.S. citizen, how can you prosecute somebody who's not a U.S. citizen? And this gets into the U.S. government's overreach, just being able to pluck citizens out of other countries. I mean, it's crazy. It's literally crazy.
Also, I think there's some kind of like problem here with the value of the assets. I've seen some people estimating that the 58,000 Bitcoin, while it seems like an immeasurable fortune right now, was like 14K, 28K, something like that at the time of him trying to exit the country. So the fact that he had incredible foresight shouldn't hurt him here. Like you say though, Adam, it does seem a little fishy, him giving it to a partner, him having the companies hold it instead of himself. It seems like he tried not to pay this tax, whereas on the flip side, if he just says, okay, I have X number of Bitcoin, here's your money, and then he goes out of the country, and to his, surprise or whatever, Bitcoin goes up in value, it's not really his fault.
Well, Jesse did get that wrong. When Jesse came up with that number of like 30 grand or whatever, that was wrong. He was using like 2011 numbers. When Roger actually exited, it was like 2014. So it was like, say, $1,000 a Bitcoin, right? But then it does get into this thing. Okay, $1,000 a Bitcoin was the high of Bitcoin that year, and he had 58,000 of them. Okay, that's a lot of money. That's $58 million. All right. But if he had to then sell half of them to pay that tax, what would the price of Bitcoin be if he had dumped, 24 whatever million Bitcoin into the market? It would have gone, or whatever it was, 24,000, so it's very difficult to, estimate these things. But again, to your point, which I don't think you're necessarily wrong, did he try to scoot around it? Of course. But that's what every person on the planet does. You're supposed to try and scoot around it, right? I mean, it's just, that gets to the point of, well, why would you do that? You do that to try and avoid taxes. This is what every single person with any sense does. That's why you hire accountants and tax lawyers and all this other garbage, right? So just another reason to get rid of all of the personal taxes, man. This is the reason why. So we don't have to play this stupid game anymore. And the government can't use this against us.
I love your altruistic idea that he did it to save the market. I can't sell.
Oh, no. Just no, dude. Come on.
Bitcoin market.
Way, dude. No. I'm saying from a valuation standpoint, it would have been very difficult if he had to sell it. What is the actual value? Is it the top value of the market that particular year? Or if he had to sell those, would that have impacted the market? Which obviously it would have, because it was a very small market. That's all I'm saying. No.
And I do think it would have been that thing where he starts selling and the price does start going down and he starts getting less and less for each additional sell, especially if he was forced to sell immediately. But it might have been another bear whale. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Roger Ver and his troubles with the tax man?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned just a moment ago, I think Trump's really opened this can of worms by pardoning Ross, because obviously there were crimes involved with Ross. I mean, I agree that his sentence was particularly harsh, which probably, justifies easing the sentence. But the thing is, this is what the courts are for, to kind of go through the ins and outs and go through the particulars of these things. I think part of the problem in America is that there doesn't seem to be any unity or any stable grounds for any of these judgments. And so what you have is judges who are too far reaching with their punishments, which then kind of the pendulum swings in totally the opposite direction, with the president having to pardon someone because it was too harsh in the first place. And then it kind of creates all of these other problems with, well, if it's okay for him, what about this person who may well have done something wrong, but are they being too harsh? And then you get to something ridiculous, which is like Sam Bankman-Fried, which is one of our later stories. So it's just like, where do you draw the line? This is the problem when you don't have consistency and you don't have ratified fairness. People need to understand that there's a system that makes sure that things are judged fairly, everything's assessed fairly, people are punished fairly, and then you don't have people second guessing, whether or not someone in the past was punished unfairly. So this person's, you don't start to get caught by most of the population. This is when things really start to break down, because people have an inherent sense of fairness, and it's part of our social contract. We need to believe that we're being treated at least somewhat fairly in order for us to feel like we should take part in the rules that are meant to govern all of us. But when those laws become a nonsense, it's a free-for-all. There are no standards anymore. People can almost get away with anything. It's like, you can run a dark web market that, potentially is responsible for murdering people, and that gets you a pardon. It's like, where do you draw the line? And I know, some of those things are controversial, but, if you just have a brief conversation with someone along those lines, it's just like, okay. So I think it's very tricky. I think, Trump really has opened a can of worms. I understand that there's a lot of rich Bitcoiners and they have their principles, but it's like, power corrupts, or money corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And money is a tool of power. And I think this is an example of where it's being taken too far. I think ultimately with Bitcoin, it completely redesigns our legal system because, at the moment, our legal system relies on government, which relies on fiat currency, which is money by decree. Obviously, Bitcoin disrupts the fiat currency system, which ultimately is going to disrupt the government, which will have a knock-on effect in how our rules are made. It may well be that our rules are made locally in the future, and we're not going to have global judge and jury via the media. It's going to be a very different thing based on what's happening locally than globally at the moment. So, this is a swan song, folks. This is not going to be the situation forever. Things are changing now.
It does seem like it's opened the door to millions of dollars equals pardon. So I don't know if Ross isn't willing to pay Trump or if he's not willing to pay the IRS, or not Ross, but I mean Roger, sorry, isn't willing to pay Trump, isn't willing to pay the IRS, who he's not willing to pay, but it does seem if you pay, you get to play. There's also been talk recently about pardoning Snowden, and it's the same thing with Ross as Snowden. They're saying, oh, Snowden's not a traitor. Even if you support Snowden, you have to understand that he broke the law, he broke his oath, he published insider information for the person he worked for. That information was bad and was war crimes, etc. So he may be a hero, but he's still kind of also a traitor. In the same way, Ross, the drug war is not over. He didn't get pardoned because the president agrees that we should have an open market for drugs and people should use what they want. The president seems temporarily swayed by millions of dollars and votes. In some ways, there's certainly a miscarriage of justice aspect to the Ross case. There's the strange murder for hire things and all of that as well. But it doesn't seem like that was taken into account, especially when we have a president that's signing executive orders like they're bringing in menus. He's like, what's on the menu today? What's the special? And they're like, oh, we're leaving the WHO. Fantastic. And he signs it. I mean, it doesn't seem very deliberative. There wasn't a great speech or a discussion of Ross and his care. I mean, there's a tweet or a Truth Social or whatever. But yeah, it's very strange.
Wait, are you saying government's run by money and influence? It's so crazy.
Well, it didn't used to be so open. It didn't used to be so open.
That actually is a great point. At least now, we do have this ability to communicate with ourselves globally one-to-one, where we can have this out in the open. And it's wide open, and at least we see it, what's happening. And you and I can discuss and say, hey, should Ross have gotten out? We can discuss it, but at least it's out there in the open now, rather than just kind of behind closed doors and pardons happen and nobody knows what's even happening. So at least we can debate it out now.
Well, I remember the last time we had an oligarchy of robber barons, we had 2 world wars and a Great Depression. So it didn't work out that well, and there was a reaction to that. They may have taken a great deal of power as oligarchs and been kings of the world for a very long time, but there was a reaction. So it does seem still like an open game and an open system. Moving on to the exit question, Elon Musk email to ex-staff. We're barely breaking even. The Wall Street Journal reports that banks are close to selling some of the $13 billion in debt they took on by helping Musk buy Twitter in 2022. Adam McBride, what do you think? Will Elon Musk close or sell X?
I definitely don't think he will. It's the greatest megaphone in the world for him. He couldn't ask for a better megaphone. To your point, robber barons in the old days would buy newspapers, right? Newspapers were the great way that they could get their word out and have their voice heard. Now it's, Elon made the genius move of buying a social media company. Complete genius. It doesn't matter how much money it makes. It's infinitely valuable to him. So the money doesn't matter. It sucks, honestly, as an ad platform. Dealing with a business who, actually has some ad credits. This last week, I started getting in there. It's garbage. It just doesn't have, to build out what a Facebook or a Google has built out as far as an ad revenue platform. It's tremendously difficult to do. Twitter obviously never put in the time and money and effort to build that out. So the ads on Twitter suck. You guys probably have never bought anything off an ad on Twitter. I certainly never have. And so whether he ever fixes that or not, I think it's almost irrelevant to him. I think his boasting about how little money it makes, just lets him keep staff small and run a type shit. I think that's what that's all about.
I agree. He's lost millions. He's been a disaster for the investors, but it doesn't matter. It's such a great source of propaganda and such a influencer of the world, as well as changing the algorithm, changing what people see. However, if it was sold, I think it would be renamed to Twitter right away. They'd bring back the bird icon. I have some kind of plug-in that changes it to the bird icon. I think everyone should get that. But it's it's also sad what's happened with, like Adam was saying, not just the ads, but if you've gained any kind of influence on Twitter, they don't show your tweets to people unless you pay. The same thing happened on Facebook. They ask you to pay to see your followers. The same thing even happened right here on YouTube, where subscribing used to matter and they used to show the videos to subscribers. Now, if you don't click on it 3 times consecutively or something like that, they pull the thing. They don't start recommending it. It's so much more algorithm based that a lot of people, and myself included here for what it is, have built up a small amount of following that now they can't reach unless they pay, which is like, are you really reaching it, or are you getting some new following now? You're getting a boost. And the same thing on Facebook. If you pay for the ads, I don't know, on YouTube, I guess the same thing, or now you have to make shorts. So hello, shorts fans.
Well, dude, it's so like you just said, it's so algo based that you basically have to create kind of viral content. And what is viral content? It's clickbaity, it's hate, it's anger. It creates the worst kind of content. And that's the world we live in right now in these ad-based models. I actually wish, I do pay for the premium on X, and my company pays for the ridiculously expensive, like $1,000 a month, business premium. I was hoping that he would have been able to basically remove all ads, make it, subscriber based, where you just pay for it like a service, and do away with ads altogether, and be able to do away with that clickbaity stuff. But that doesn't seem to have happened on any platform I'm on right now.
I agree. It does tend towards the lowest common denominator. And remember, we built all of these social networks, the internet itself, after the original DoD plans. We built it on who could build it the cheapest with the ads, which was Facebook and MySpace and other things like this. And it's really worked out that way for us. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Elon Musk and trouble at Twitter? Will he sell X?
Well, the trouble at Twitter doesn't surprise me, actually. I mean, it's definitely not the platform it was. It used to be a real joy to be on there, and it was much easier to kind of interact with people and feel like you were making a difference in terms of what you were able to say. But, the way in which they've tuned the algorithms, it's just not as rewarding anymore. I mean, I actually pay for Twitter. When Elon Musk came out saying that he's supported free speech, I was like, well, I'm in support of that, so I'm happy to support you financially. But it's definitely not the same as it was. I don't like the new logo. I've also still got the Twitter feed that I had from when I was a dentist, but I'm now not allowed to access it because I refuse to give them my date of birth, because that one I don't pay for. Whereas this one that I pay for, even though they keep asking me for the date of birth, I keep saying no. But it's like, it's just, if they insist, I won't pay for it anymore. So it's like, we'd rather have your £10 a month than insist you pay for your date of birth. And so it's quite apparent what they're trying to do. I mean, Elon Musk has made no qualms about the fact that he wanted to create it into this massive payment network. But of course, in order to do that, you've got to verify people, which requires people having their date of birth. But of course, as Bitcoiners, we understand that part of the problem with centralized money is, especially if you've got KYC, it's a tool for a lot of data companies to gather your data over, what you spend your money on. And who wants that? We all know, well, actually, not everyone does know the path that that's going to lead you down, but that's total control. And dictatorship, it's incredibly dangerous. And I've always maintained that actually the strategy of the government has always been to have some kind of centralized digital currency. It gives them incredible power. I strongly suspect that Satoshi Nakamoto, when he invented Bitcoin, he was a developer who understood that this was the direction in which it was going in. And I think a lot of those early developers, in understanding that, were highly motivated to try and create something else and get ahead of it, and they were successful in doing so, which is why we have Bitcoin today. But of course, if you've got a crypto president who allows crypto on the basis of the fact that everyone's a fan of Bitcoin, then suddenly Bitcoin's banned, but all other crypto is okay. You know, the banks get what they were aiming for originally, and the software that was meant to save us is completely out of the picture. You know, so, and as we're going to come and talk to, you know, all the recent executive orders, okay, he freed Ross, but there was nothing in, not a single piece of legislation that he signed straight after he was made president included Bitcoin anywhere in it at all. And people need to be aware of that.
We'll have to see what turns out. I always said that I would pay for Twitter, but I wanted the old Twitter, the one like Victoria said that had the good algorithm where people could talk to you. And like Adam was saying, it was more like a club with subscriptions and you would have no ads, and that I would be paying to support the website, not whatever's happening now where you're paying to get influence and power and boosts and these kind
Social
of
status.
social
Like,
status. Yeah, that's the worst option.
To Victoria's point about the payments and stuff, it is just to keep an eye on. With Elon trying to push forward, and I know he has some partnerships and stuff with Visa, and came out that he's really trying to create a payment layer on X. Just keep your eyes peeled, because you know when you talk about like Balaji with this network state idea, you know, think about how close we were to Facebook having, you know, the first real network state when they tried to do their crypto, basically got shut down by the government. You know, Telegram with their Tron or Ton network, he's pushing for it. Hasn't really happened there, but Elon really is in maybe the best position to create a really, really large network state if he ever gets the payments figured out. So just keep an eye on that.
Meanwhile, they're not even allowing Twitter links from the outside world. You can't even share it unless you have an account. And I do agree with Victoria. It is possible that they change the rules and the laws so that they only allow cryptos who have a founder, and that founder has a birthday. And if you don't have that and an identification card and a picture and so on and so forth, Satoshi Nakamoto, then I think you could be out of luck, because again, they paid him, they got a pardon, they got a really nice executive order, and they got, I think, a temporary reprieve. If they change their mind on any of these things, they could change it with another executive order. Crypto is now illegal. Bitcoin is now illegal. Trump coin is the official coin of the
currency of the US.
Or Melania coin. It's
Made in the USA, baby.
governed by executive order. All you have to do is sign it. Moving on, check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,008 videos, 4,108 videos that you can watch for more than 3 days, 23 months, 20 days, 21 hours consecutively. It's been 11 years, 1 month, and 26 days since our first video. Issue 3, Bitwise files to launch Dogecoin ETF. The asset manager is among a number of issuers seeking ETFs for the meme coin. It's finally happened. Dogecoin ETF has been filed. Adam McBride, what do you think about Dogecoin, the ETF?
I love it. It'd be really, really great and fun. My feeling is that, and we talked about this briefly off the air, but you know, it's kind of between like Doge. I know there's a lot of people pushing for Litecoin. Solana actually, for me, feels like they're going to be the winner, only because money's involved, you know, and you have a lot of powerful, rich people, including David Sachs, very connected into the you know, current administration. That just feels to me like Solana has the best chance, because, and it to be clear too, it's the winning like blockchain other than Bitcoin this cycle. It's the one, right? With the meme coin explosion, Solana's been the one. So my gut says Solana, but could be Dogecoin. I don't personally think it's Litecoin, although I'd love, you know, Litecoin holders to get a win. But I feel like it's going to be Solana. That's actually my guess on this.
Surprise, the answer is Ripple.
That could be, bro.
I don't want it. I don't want it to be that.
Could be.
But also with this Dogecoin ETF, I think that Jackson Palmer is just rolling over in his grave. He doesn't do public opinions anymore or appearances anymore. But my friend Jackson, who created Dogecoin as a joke because he didn't like cryptocurrency. He hated cryptocurrency. This is like the Grinch. And he's like, I'll get those Whovilles. I'm going to create an infinitely expanding coin. It'll have no value at all. I'll put this popular internet meme on it, the Doge. I'll change the words to Comic Sans. I'm mocking Bitcoiners, and to see potentially an ETF, which again, I don't think he had any Doge. I think he hated Doge. He hated Bitcoin. And now it's going to be an ETF.
Dude, and it's a government agency. How great is that? Bro, it's the greatest. It's like the greatest like thing ever in crypto. It is. Him and Billy obviously created Dogecoin, and like the whole idea that it's become, you know, Elon's pet project and a government agency is it's perfect, man. It's incredible. Poor Jackson.
It really is a government agency, because the power of the coin, not just the Doge meme, the power of the Shiba Inu in itself, but the Doge coin, which, like you said, Elon adopted, and it shows what can happen with a meme. Something like Pepe, you put it out there, it's a nice cartoon, people put horrible things on it, becomes a bad cartoon. Doge goes out there, it's a big joke. Now it's an ETF and allegedly a government department, whatever
Allegedly.
it is, and whatever's going on over there. But we'll see how that all turns out. It'll be in all the lawsuits. It'll be in all the charges and the trials. United States government versus Doge. Victoria Jones, what do you think about a Dogecoin ETF? Are you lining up to invest?
Well, I don't see why there should just be one. I mean, you know, why not have open silly season in the financial markets? I mean, hey, we had it in the crypto markets in 2017. It's time the financial markets got a taste of just how stupid these things can be. And after all, they're completely desperate because the financial system is teetering on the brink. So, you know, they need to throw everything they can at it in order to get the money swishing around in order for them to make money. And the crypto peeps, you know, have a head start on this. Anyone who was around in 2017 has been able to see exactly how it can play out. And in fact, Trump coin and Melania coin have already demonstrated exactly what happens in the ICO season. And, you know, why not allow the ETFs to have a taste of all of that glory? And anyone with any sense who invested in Bitcoin and saw that Bitcoin survived it all would know that ultimately that's the one that you want to buy. But yeah, obviously quick bucks through the meme coins. But, you know, if you want a steady, sensible solution, then Bitcoin is for the win.
They say there's a guy on pump.fun who created more than 1,700 meme coins, logging in day after day, spending 8 hours just making coins all day long. They say he made over $800,000. Hi-oh. But moving on to
I'm surprised it's only 1,700. I would have thought it was 17,000 or 170,000.
Oh, there's got to be copiers now. I mean, there's got to be hundreds working on it, factories, man. But we have the truth right here. We can tell you what the price is going to be this time next week. Adam McBride, the price of Bitcoin, higher or lower?
Lower. Definitely lower. It's dropping like a rock.
Victoria Jones, sticking with the pessimism, higher or lower?
I'm not always pessimistic. You know, I think Bitcoin is infinitely able to surprise us, so why not higher?
I'm always optimistic, but the reason we covered the tariff stories at the beginning of the show is you might think they're boring, like 18th century history, but it will affect you and it will affect the Bitcoin market, even if we want to pretend otherwise. However, I'm still bullish. Bitcoin always goes up. But the ball knows all. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Concentrate and ask again. Concentrate and ask again. That's why you have great power. You just don't share that knowledge. Now you just have to see what happens. Moving on to issue 4. Netflix hit with a cease and desist over the Bitfinex Bitcoin Heist documentary. Lawyers for Heather Rosal Khan Morgan accused Netflix and Library Films of violating the privacy of wedding guests and spreading false claims. Allegedly, Rosal Khan and her husband Ilya were the hackers from Bitfinex, stealing hundreds of Bitcoins and then trading them for Walmart gift cards and PlayStation 5s. Adam McBride, I wanted to watch this movie. I'm disappointed if it's desisted and if it is ceasing. I also want to watch the live action acted out version that I think Amazon Prime is working on. I forget the name of that, but I'm a huge Rosal Khan fan, especially learning that she's from Chico, California. Adam, what do you think about the cease and desist in their attempt to stop the film?
I'm surprised they're trying to tamp it down. I would have thought she would be like all for having, you know, more attention on her, more like Netflix stuff. Like when she comes out, I mean, it is going to be game on for her. I mean, Jesus, you think about when she comes out of jail, her ability to make money on Pump Fun or whatever, it's going to be off the chain. It's going to be crazy. She's going to be like a celebrity when she gets out. So I'm surprised she actually wanted to tamp this down. Maybe the tamping down is just simply to ramp it up. Eventually, you know, Netflix will get it through and we'll be able to watch this, this shit show. But she's a complete character. We were talking a bit ago. This is the kind of the crazy, to Victoria's point about like our legal system and how it's just completely out of whack it can get, right? I don't know. Somebody selling fireworks, we were talking about Roger Ver or whatever. He got 4 years for selling fireworks out of his apartment as an 18-year-old kid. This lady got 3 years, I think, for stealing like $500 million or whatever it was, like 3 years. And the dude who was like the main dude, he got like 5 years. It's like, what? How many lives did they impact by stealing all that money? Like a lot of lives, a lot. And yeah, they didn't kill anybody necessarily, but I mean, they impacted thousands of people's lives and they got 3 years. Like it's nuts. So, you know, it is what it is, but it's a crazy story. And I want to hear more about it because it's crazy. And she's obviously insane. So that's fun.
It does seem like she's going to be a star. I agree with you, Adam. I think it's the right take that this could just be promotion for the Netflix film and that Rosalcom simply wants her name in more lawsuits, in more articles, so she can prep for her future rap career, as they've done in other industries such as the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWE or WWF. And it now seems like they're doing in the UFC, literally having a person who supports Nazi views as one of the fighters, and Dana White saying that I do not support Nazi views, and I agree with him on that. But his suggestion was to root against the fighter, which is the literal definition of kayfabe from the old wrestling days, which I didn't think UFC had, but I guess they're getting into now. In many ways, this Rosal Khan case, it seems like she protests too much. Seems kayfabe to me. Victoria Jones, what do you think? They're suing. They went to a wedding, and now it's a documentary.
Yeah, I've actually watched it. It is surprisingly just, I mean, it's shocking to me that she's a celebrity. It really is. It's just so bad, it's good. You know, some people just really love that kind of crashed car TV. But it, you know, I found it cringy to watch. I was like, really? And it's really hard to believe that she's responsible for stealing $1 billion. I mean, clearly the person she teamed up with may well have had the skill, but it turns out, you know, she might actually be way more intelligent than would be apparent based on her pop videos. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I read the article and I can believe that the things she claims Netflix embellished, they did embellish because, of course, they're a media company and, of course, they're now the most important media company. And actually, it's not the first time that they've embellished details in a story that's got them into trouble. There's a famous series in the UK called Baby Reindeer where exactly the same thing happened, and the person who came off looking badly from that ended up suing them as well. And so, you know, it is a bit of a pattern. I think Netflix is clearly going to try and extend the reach of their story. And actually, that's a really bad thing to do because that can ruin people's lives. So, you know, considering, you know, yes, she may have a case to answer to, but, you know, the IRS is already somewhat dealing with that. You know, Netflix needs to be reined in as well. And so if she's using some of her crypto profits to give them a bump on the nose, then, you know, she gets my vote. Good for her.
It is an exciting time for Bitcoin documentaries. We had HBO Max accusing Peter Todd of being Satoshi. And in the style of Rosal Khan, there's the Richard Hart documentary, The Highest of Stakes. All of these things still unfolding in public. Again, I just want to watch them. I hope it comes out soon. And I'm a big supporter of women's rights, and that means equal sentencing. I think she's just as smart as Ilya, as Victoria was saying. She should probably have gotten the same sentence It doesn't seem fair. Also, Caroline Ellison was let out with the whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing. Where's the crime? You do the time, you serve the time, equal rights, right? I probably disagree. We're running out of time. We've got quick issues. Let's keep going. Ross Ulbricht's wallet is losing millions of dollars on pump.fund meme coins. I don't know how it works out, but they had $12 million and they put it into the wrong liquidity pool and they got the wrong things out of it. Adam McBride, can you help us figure out what's going on here? It's allegedly wallets belonging to Ross Ulbricht from the old days. And did they invest in some Ross?
No, it's not the old. What it is basically somebody sent him these meme coins, and he, rather than just sell them all one time, he did actually the what most people would consider the right thing to do, which is you one side a liquidity pool so people can buy the tokens, but it doesn't just dump them all on the market. But that takes some experience, and you got to know what you're doing. And he doesn't, and didn't, and basically lost. Basically, a bot came in and like swiped them all. And
it sounds like, he set the price too low, and the bot came in and bought it all up.
Hey, crypto's hard, man. Crypto's hard. And when you try to do stuff like that, if you're not seasoned and you don't know exactly what you're doing, it's very easy to lose your money. And he did, but it wasn't really his to be. It was, somebody gave it to him. And so it's not like he lost money on the deal. And I think he still made some money on the deal. I mean, the more interesting question is, how many dust wallets does he have floating around? That's the far more interesting question to me. People are estimating upwards of, I don't know, 14,000 Bitcoins floating around in dust wallets. I don't know. Have you talked about that yet?
Last week, we said that he might have access to $47 million. However, his original stash would be worth billions. Oh, yeah. So like you're saying, if he has ones we don't know about, those would be the best ones to have.
Facts.
As they said in Heist, I try to think of what somebody smarter than me would do, and then I do that. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Ross and his fun times on the meme coin markets?
Well, day 3 out of prison, do you really want to be experimenting with $12 million? You might want a bit of training before you took that risk.
The yard, but now you're out on the markets.
But if you've got $1 billion in reserve, then who cares? Might as well, give it all away in one throw. Why not? But yeah, it's a shame though. It's a lot of people would work for a long time to make that kind of money. So yeah, it's worth crying over, I think.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Ross is set like forever.
Yeah.
Like Ross is good. Even if he has 0 Bitcoin, he's such a hero in the Bitcoin community. He could basically, be the face of a company or whatever. He's good. He just shouldn't screw it up. Like, this is the screwing it up part that he might want to get some better advisors, help him navigate this a little bit better. Like you said, should he even be, giving out his Solana address? Probably not. If he's going to be the face of Bitcoin, better to lean into Bitcoin and not go down the road of meme coins, but.
Yeah.
Hit me up, take some time off, have a retreat, buy a cabin in the woods. I mean, wouldn't that? I would go on vacation to Florida first, and I wouldn't touch a computer at all, right?
Well, people are crazy, man. And you know what? Like, look, I mean, again, this is the type of thing. Well, I know, people did raise. He's got a few $100,000 at least. People raised just in a donation wallet. But even that, it's like, you don't know situations and stuff. And somebody's like, shoot, you have $1 million sitting here. Okay, let me click, and it's gone. That's crypto, man.
Well, and he does know what he did before because he ran a website and he made all the stuff, and he's a programmer, so he knows what you're doing. He's, that was a
he's been off the game for a while, man. He's been out of the game, dude. You forget, you get sloppy.
Speaking of out of the game, Sam Bankman-Fried is back in the news. His parents want President Trump to pardon their convicted son. The last time we talked about Sam Bankman-Fried, Elon Musk said on Twitter that President Biden was going to pardon SBF. We all waited with bated breath as the clock ticked down and no pardon appeared. Now they want Trump to pardon him. Remember that SBF bribed both sides of the political system, Democrats above the board, Republicans below. Adam McBride, what do you think? Should
Dude,
they
how are his parents not in
SPF
jail?
too?
Why aren't they in jail? What are they doing free? Like, how did that happen? How did that happen? They took millions of dollars from not his money. I mean, oh, they didn't know. Okay, they still, how did they not get any time? I just,
They
it's
introduced him to all their friends, said he was a
disgusting, man.
genius. They
I mean,
backed his company. They went down there and were accountants or active on the project, allegedly, and so forth.
how is it that half the conversations we've had already on this show are all about government and corrupt government and not fair playing field and all this shit? I mean, it's just shit. We have to understand that governments are shit. They run stuff like shit. They are shit. They're inherently corrupt. And the only job of the people, us, is to trim them back all the time because they're like evil weeds that are growing to take our lives. And we need to chop them down. That's all we should be doing.
Well, we all know that the first thing Satoshi did after he created Bitcoin was to launch his own meme coin, Satoshi coin, and then to create an S coin exchange where he could then sell said meme coins, because that's what you do if you invent something cool. Again, this is the classic pattern we've seen before. Bitcoin's really cool. It's too expensive. I can't buy enough of it. Maybe I can attach my business onto it, whether your business is Coinbase or your business is shit coins, your business is NFTs or whatever it is. We're going to attach onto Bitcoin and steal some of its success for us. SBF with his company FTX, all these fantastic initialisms, so clearly tried to do the same. And like Adam was saying, he tried to purchase government protection from both sides for his company. Because of the raise he had, he was in a strong position and able to do it. Also, allegedly, because he was dipping into customer funds. Always a bad look.
Not even alleged. That like happened.
Who knows?
There's no alleged there,
I
dude.
say
That
alleged for
happened.
everything now. But Victoria Jones, what do you think? SBF, his parents want him free. He's a good dude, just like these other people. Like Adam said, he only cost people a fortune and probably their life savings.
Yeah, I think it's terrible. You know, if I were a sweary person, I would have more to say, but I like to remain polite in these situations. But yes, yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's shouldn't be allowed.
Dude should never get out of jail, ever. He should be in
Yeah.
jail the rest of his life. Period. Full stop. And his parents should be ashamed of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does seem rather
Absolutely.
brazen that they're going public and asking for this pardon. Certainly Ross, 10, 11 years in jail, kind of a political prisoner, kind of a protest thing. What was SBF protesting? Him not having enough money? Like, where's the kind of political, he was a right winger, he was a left winger. What? I don't think he's any of those things. It seems he was clearly out for himself. All the things that we know about him, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to say, have been proven horribly false. I remember this incredible TikTok video where the guy says, "Look at this guy. He's a billionaire and he drives a Honda Accord.
He doesn't care about money. Yeah, right.
He's like, he's going to save the world." And I couldn't believe watching it then, and I can't believe watching it now on the other side of this. But it just seems so ridiculous the whole time. However, again, I and the other crypto people were not into this. They were not in our face with this, except for buying Blockfolio. This was similar to the Facebook rollout where it happened in little East Coast colleges. FTX and these altcoins or whatever people were buying on there was being sold to retail investors in other countries. It was being sold by other avenues that were not privy to the Bitcoin people, and where the Bitcoin people would say, hey, keep your eye on that. Don't keep your coins all on the exchange, this kind of thing. I don't think any of those warnings were given to the FTX people, and they all went down with the ship. All right, I think we're running out of time. Adam McBride, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Ooh, story of the week. Well, I guess AI is really the thing dominating kind of my mind right now in crypto. And I know we've kind of just had our first wave of like, how does crypto and AI work together? And so if you're on the timeline on Twitter, you see AI XBT. This is basically a Twitter bot, right? And it's easy to wave that off and hand wave it away. But I think once you get your head around the idea that, hey, the most important and impactful KOL on Twitter, on crypto Twitter at least, is a robot. I think you start understanding that AI is really, really important. And for me and what I'm working on with my team, the idea of abstracting away crypto so that, like in the case of Ross making that mistake cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's something that AI can really, really help with. And so I'm really excited about that. That's what we got going on the timeline, is using AI as like this layer to help normies navigate crypto. I think that's really exciting. And I'm excited for the next year to see where that goes and gets us away from like this wallet infrastructure, which is so clunky and bad and confusing and causes a lot of people to lose a lot of money. So that's what I'm excited about.
AI is very exciting. I wish I had more time to tell the AI to do more things for me.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Victoria Jones, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, I'm still focused on teaching people the fundamentals of, how money and currency work so they understand how to make better choices in the crypto industry. So, my latest newsletter is Bitcoin as a Currency, which is published on my website called satoshispage.com. I actually published it a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't been able to join you on the World Crypto Network because of various things that have happened. So it's the first time I've been on for a while, and the first chance I've had to tell you about it. So yeah, if you're interested in that or want to educate your friends, it's also on my website in French, Spanish, and German as well. So
Nice.
if you've got friends who speak other languages, so yeah, check that out if you're interested.
Wunderbar. That's great to hear. Check it out at satoshispage.com. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. It's a great chance to push the like button below, drop a comment, say hello in the chat. I'm going to check it after the show. And it's been a wild and crazy week, as the Chinese curse says. May you live in interesting times. And we are living in interesting times with the government funds freeze, the foreign aid freeze, the attempted shutdowns of many government divisions, so on and so forth. And like we said at the beginning of the show, whether we didn't want to talk about them at all, the tariffs against Canada and Mexico that are allegedly starting Saturday, tomorrow. So this could all be very exciting for crypto, or we could separate as an asset and completely ignore the whole thing, which is always what I think is going to happen. But who knows when it finally will? Maybe this time, maybe not. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.